Hi everyone, I'm back with a slightly late edition of the American Chess Magazine puzzle calendar. Let's get into the April 27th. It was composed by Nikolaj Dolfinovic in the year 1981. Again, all the puzzles in this series are white to move, mate in 2. If you want to try to solve this puzzle for yourself, then go ahead and pause the video here. For me, this puzzle had a difficulty rating of 4 out of 10 and a satisfaction rating of 4.5 out of 5. So here the most obvious check for white is rook to c4 check, but the problem is that black can run away with king to e5. E5 check doesn't fail because black has a lot of ways to block on e4, so probably not going to end up in mate in 2. All the other possible checks are guarded, like this knight's guarding this square, bishop to e3 is guarded by this rook, knight f5 is guarded by this knight, so it doesn't look like white has anything immediate. So the move that I want to make work is rook to c4 check, because at least this check isn't hanging, right? It doesn't rely on black moving one of their pieces away. And king e5 being the problem, white has to find a way to guard this e5 square. Knight g4, knight to f7, bishop to f4 are all options to try. Oh, and pawn to f4 are all ways to try guard this e5 square. Also rook h5, but rook h5 just fails the knight takes, so white doesn't have anything here. So out of these other moves, pawn to f4 blocks this rook along the 4th rank, and after black plays something like rook takes f4, rook takes e4, then white doesn't have anything. Knight to g4 again blocks the rook, so black plays rook takes e4, and white doesn't have anything. Knight to f7 does look very hopeful, because once you see that, for example, after knight c takes, white has knight b5 mate, it's like, oh, there might be something here. But the problem is that black plays knight g takes e4, and originally this knight on h6 could have played knight f5 checkmate, but you move the knight away, therefore white doesn't have mate in 1. So what white needs to do is to play bishop to f4. Hang on. What white needs to do is play bishop to f4. And bishop f4, this move, it looks like it's also blocking the rook. But after black takes, white has bishop e3 mate, taking advantage of the fact that the rook is being pinned to the king. Rook takes e4 fails to bishop to e5. Knight takes fails to knight f5. The other knight takes fails to knight to b5. And if black doesn't do anything, then white will be playing checkmate on the next turn. This is the puzzle for April 28th. It was composed by Giorgio Miri in the year 1981. Again, you want to solve this puzzle for yourself, then go ahead and pause the video here. For me, this puzzle had a difficulty rating of 6 out of 10 and a satisfaction rating of 5 out of 5. Black's king looks very stupid in the center, but the thing is that white doesn't seem like they have an easy way to make them. For example, bishop takes b8, this is one of those near misses. It looks like it's starting queen e5, a lot of good stuff here, maybe queen d6 as well. But after rook takes c2, white has nothing. If knight to e3, then the king runs to d4. If queen to e5, the king runs to c4. Queen to d6, the king still runs to c4, and unfortunately the e4 square is guarded by this knight, so white doesn't have mate here. Another way, there's actually a lot of near misses in this position. One thing that I saw that was really helpful is that this knight is being pinned to the king. So I thought, well, some sort of checkmate on d4 might work, right? Because if rook takes d2 immediately try and take advantage of this pin, black can just block. So I thought getting the rook to d4 would be a better idea. Rook to e4 was something I considered, and it looks kind of hopeful because after knight takes, for example, then here white has knight to e3 mate because the king can no longer run to e4. But unfortunately, after king takes e4, none of these discovered checks are good enough because the king has 2 light squared escape squares to run to. So rook e4 doesn't work. Then I looked at rook to c4, which again looks like it might work maybe. For example, after bishop takes or something, white has queen takes d7, which is not mate because the bishop can block. But it looks kind of hopeful, but unfortunately black has a lot of ways to deal with this, taking this rook in a bunch of different ways, and white doesn't have mate in 2. So then I got stuck for a while, like, well, maybe knight e6, because the pawn can't take, otherwise queen takes is mate. But knight e6, even though it's starting knight f4, the problem is that black just plays bishop takes e5, and guarding this f4 and c7 squares. So then for a long time I was kind of stumped, but then I'm like, well, why not put my queen on d4? Queen to h4, threatening queen to d4, and black actually has no defense here amazingly. Knight e4, queen takes e4. If knight g4, then white has queen to h1 checkmate. If black tries to play bishop takes e5, guarding the d4 square, then the problem here is that white has knight to e3 because this queen is guarding the 4th rank and therefore these 2 escape squares. Black doesn't have any other defenses here. For example, here white has knight to e3 mate, sorry. This is not mate. Here white has queen to d4 mate. What was I thinking? No other defense here for black. Pawn takes runs into, again, one of these knight mates. So overall, this is the puzzle becomes a lot easier once you try to adjust your thinking to getting the queen to the d4 square rather than one of your rooks. But other than that, it takes a while to get into this mentality of bringing the queen in, so that's why I gave it a relatively high difficulty rating. This was the puzzle for last weekend, April 29th through 30th. It was composed by Barry Barnes in the year 1961. Again, if you want to solve this puzzle for yourself, then go ahead and pause the video here. For me, this puzzle had a difficulty rating of 3 out of 10 and a satisfaction rating of 5 out of 5. So here, white's queen is pinned to the king, so it looks very alarming. It's like, oh no, I'm going to lose my queen. But one good thing you notice is that the rook is also pinned to black's king, so at least black can't take the queen with check. So my first reaction was, well, why not try to unpin the queen? And then we run into the big problem of this puzzle, which is that black can always take the queen with the bishop. White's not even up that much material anymore. And then here white is kind of sad because they don't have mate anymore because they can't move the queen away. And their other pieces are not that coordinated to attack. So instead of relying on the queen to give checkmate, I looked at the other pieces. D3 check is a check that definitely looks very promising, but the problem is king takes f3. So I thought, well, why not try guard this knight? White has two ways to do this, knight g to e1 and knight g to h4. Now the reason knight g to e1 doesn't work is because sadly black has this spite move, knight to b5. Now if d3 check, the king can run to f5 or d5 because the rook has been blocked. So instead, white plays knight g to h4. And now if black plays the move knight to b5, here white has the option, again d3 check wouldn't work because of king to d5. So what white should do here is simply play the move queen to c6. And the reason that knight to e1 wouldn't allow queen c6 mate is because the king cannot escape to f5. F5, because this knight is now controlling the f5 square. After knight to g4, white is threatening d3. If black tries to create a flight square with f takes g3, d3 also conveniently takes it away. The king cannot run to f4. Black has no other methods of defense. Taking the queen doesn't really help because the queen wasn't controlling any of the king's escape square. So here, white will be giving mate in 2. So those are the puzzles for this half week. There was definitely a theme of perseverance, trying an idea over and over again and trying to fix the mistakes or problems that came with each move. I'm going to blame my late video as a result of watching the World Championship. Definitely super exciting games there. I personally was very happy when Ding ended up winning, but I feel like it was a very even match. Both players could have won. I hope you enjoyed this week's half week's video, and that's all for today. Bye!